I had a teacher who would say, she would be walking and someone would step on her foot and she'd say, "Excuse me, that's my career." And that she was trying to teach us that these matter, my feet matter.
Welcome to Hack Circus. This episode I talked to my friend Rosa Cisneros Kostic. Rosa is a Spanish, Serbian, Romani, international person of the world, a dance teacher, a technology and dance researcher, and just a really interesting and really nice person. So I was delighted to welcome her onto the show this week, and I think you'll find her just as inspiring as I did. Hack Circus is all about going behind the scenes with creative people to give you some inspiration, and I always feel inspired and enlightened after talking to Rosa, because she has this amazing insight into the body. She's been a dancer all her life. She's a highly accomplished flamenco dancer, but she's also trained in ballet, which is really surprising because they're kind of opposites, as we discuss in this episode. When you meet someone and you just think, that person is probably going to be one of the most interesting people I've ever met. Well, that's kind of how it was with Rosa when I met her. I only met her a few months ago. And when I met her, she was about to move to Sheffield. So it's like, I don't necessarily believe in destiny, but it was a wonderful coincidence that she came into my life at that point, and now we live in the same town. So it's really exciting for me. If you were also excited and inspired by this episode, please let us know. You can either let us know by rating on iTunes or leaving a quick review, or stalking us on social media somewhere. We're Hack Circus on Twitter and Instagram, and Hack Circus Podcast on Facebook, various other places. Hack Circus on Snapchat too, if you want to get some behind the scenes stuff over the in between the episodes. I did promise last week that I was going to do 50 episodes, and I still hold that promise. So I think we've got to about episode 21 now, and there will be one episode a week until we get to episode 50, and then we'll have a look and see if we're going to carry on. So 50 episodes at least. I won't keep you any longer because this is a great one. I really hope you enjoy this episode, and let's get on with it. Your email is Rosemary, but your name is not Rosemary, really.
It's Rosa Maria.
Right, okay, hence Rosa being your social.
Exactly. So Rosa Maria is a very Spanish name, and because I've lived and traveled in many places, my mother would also say, Rosa or Rosemary is much easier for people to say, but I prefer Rosa. So, yes, so it's Rosa Maria Elizabeth Cisneros Kostic. It's a long name. So it's my father's Serbian and my mother is Spanish Gypsy. Wow. So I've been this mix of cultures and languages and, yes, countries.
You grew up in America though, right?
That's right. I was born in Chicago, and I've lived back and forth in Spain and in Europe, and for the last 10 years now I've been in Europe. So we've lived in Germany, Spain, Turkey, although it's not in Europe, and now the UK. So it's been a bit of an adventure, and right now we're happy here in the UK, and we'll see what's next. Yeah.
Obviously we're going to talk about your dancing. Do you feel more of a connection through your dance to your heritage than you do through where you live, or have you thought about that? Your identity?
That's a really good question. I guess I don't feel any. I see myself in some things. I can say, oh yeah, that's a very American way I was brought up. Maybe because I went to university there, and kind of this idea that anything is possible, that American dream, that with hard work you are able to accomplish anything. But then that's also very much gitano, which is gypsy in Spanish, way of seeing that, you can, women are capable of doing anything, and I was very much brought up that way with my mother. So, yes, I feel just, I live everywhere, and home is with me. I grew up, I was taught that, you don't need very much for your home. What you have on you is enough, that material things come and go. So there's certainly some things that I could say with my art and dancing. Yes, that's very much Spanish, and my mannerisms with my hands are also very Spanish. And the way, I think, the respect for people and elders is very much Spanish, gitano. But dreaming big would be, I think, more of an American thing. Yeah. I think in some things I'm very much Anglo-Saxon, and then in other things, no way. No way. I think that's maybe one of the beauties of being from a mixed background. You have the option of choosing things that you like and that you don't like, and so I've been able to, fortunately, reject some things that I don't like about different aspects of the community, of whether that's Gitano or Gypsy or American or even European. I mean, I just can say, nope, no thank you. And in other things I can say, yes, I'll embrace that fully. Where for someone else it may feel a little bit, they may not have permission. They may not give themselves that permission.
Do you think that, like, being an accomplished dancer allows you to take on sort of roles that you see around you, or characteristics of people in that way? So it helps you maybe to be a citizen of the world, because you can sort of see things in people and go, oh, I'll be a bit like that, or I'll be more like that. Because I feel like that's something that I've seen, and I think that's something I've seen in other dancers, where you get used to following other people and kind of taking bits of them on somehow.
Sure, yes, absolutely. An astute observation. Yes, it's, I guess, because the way we dancers go through the world, we're experiencing it maybe in a very kind of, in a physical, corporeal way, and that it goes back to permission. It allows me to feel that, yes, I've arrived in the UK, even though I may not be from here, but I still have arrived because there's something in my body that allows me to feel comfortable. It's about energy. So yes, so it gives me, I can go to Poland next week and say, okay, that will be my home for 2 weeks, and that's enough. Yeah.
You're a very serene person. I know that you're very relaxing to be around. It's quite interesting to me because you do have quite a hectic life, like you say. You're travelling quite often. You have a new young child, and you're living in a place, you haven't been here that long. You've only been here a couple of months now, I think. And how do you stay so calm in the face of all these things that would stress other people out?
Well, I'm not always calm, but I do think, again, it's that dancers, and again, these are gross generalizations, but most dancers have a mind-body connection and a practice, and so it's about being in the moment. I'm training to do that, and so right now I'm here with you. Nothing else is existing other than you and me in this conversation. So that I try and live by that rule, that just be in the moment and the rest will fall into place. Because of course, there are nights when I stay up thinking about things, and but it's about your energy and about being completely in one place. And that's very important to me. And I think also with my baby, or she's now 1 year old, but the way we communicate is through energy, because she's learning languages. So she's experiencing the world through my body and through my energy that I'm feeding her. So if I'm frantic on the bus, that bus experience is going to be quite frantic for her. But if I can make it an enjoyable thing and sing a song, so it's about, I think, trying to embrace what's around you rather than reject it. And I think that's very much a part of the Romani Gypsy community, that, you know, we can travel, and kind of set up shop anywhere, because we're embracing what's around us. Not that all gypsies travel, though. That's a misconception. But again, it does come from that way of seeing and being in the world.
A lot of people say that one of the biggest problems that you have is actually that you're always trying to fight negative things or things that are different to you, and actually the fight is the problem. And maybe there's something about, you know, flamenco or Spanish dance generally that is about kind of embracing that fight almost and turning it into something positive. I don't know.
Absolutely. I mean, there is something, you know, when I hear people describe flamenco, it's passion, fire, and, you know, typically when someone says, oh, they're a passionate person, it's kind of like, ooh, be careful, or, you know, fire, ooh. But in flamenco, it's embraced. But I think it's about that. It's about these contradictions that can come together and coexist. And so you can have this very powerful woman doing all of this footwork, but then she can also be very sensual and very feminine. And so absolutely, that what happens, I've always said that what happens on your personality comes out on stage. And so flamenco, that training, that background, I think certainly bleeds into my life and way of existing in the world.
Presumably you were doing flamenco from quite a young age, because it was passed down from your mother and so on. Did you have a moment when you realised that not everybody did flamenco, or that it wasn't a normal thing for a young child to sort of do this?
I think very young I learned that the way we were at home was not the way the rest of the world existed. My mother is a very strong, passionate, fiery woman. Very beautiful, can also be quite difficult to be around. And so I learned to navigate that relationship, and through flamenco I kind of settled into understanding different parts of the community and different parts of her. So yes, at a young age I knew, well, also because my mother would say, we are this, they are not this. At home you speak Spanish, at home you do this. I don't care that the Americans are doing this, I mean, but you don't do that. So she also made it very clear that there was a line that we could cross, and that we shouldn't, or a line that existed that we shouldn't cross. And I guess in many ways I'm repeating that with my teaching, with my practice, and also with my daughter.
Did you ever feel lonely as a child with this sort of unusual upbringing?
Yeah, I mean, as a child I felt just odd. You know, I was very shy. I was painfully shy. I'm still quite shy. I guess with you I'm comfortable, so yeah, and I was quite a chubby kid, you know, and Chicago was very segregated, so we went to back then you would say African American, or you would still say African American school and area. So it was always just different. And I was really affected by people and what they would say, and so I felt sad a lot of the time that, you know, I was like, oh, I don't understand that. And so in the processing of what was around me, I did feel alone and sad. And then as I grew up, I realized this kind of the way my life was compartmentalized, to see, okay, you're this or you're not that, or that they didn't have to be that there was a gray area. And once I accepted that gray area, then things just started blossoming. And what before was maybe the odd thing about my personality, or the quirky thing, or being the dancer in my family, now that's, you know, what makes me. And I've learned to kind of just accept and embrace that and not deny those sides. And even my sadness when that comes up, because, you know, we're taught to think that we should be happy, we should be productive, we should do all these, we should be skinny, whatever it is. And we're not always that. Sometimes I am sad, sometimes I am tired, and that's okay.
the way you're describing yourself, you sound like you were probably quite a sensitive child as well, and that does lead to feeling sad and out of place and things like that. But I think you need that sensitivity to become a great dancer. Like, it seems like that's one of the things that you can turn that into a strength, and actually you can't really be a truly great dancer without being sensitive to all your emotions and other people and everything else. So yeah, it's lovely that you had that, I suppose.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, it takes a while to figure that out, though, and I think thank you for calling me a great dancer, but it's a process. You're always learning, you're always training. I approach dance thinking that it's not about me, it's about a lineage and a legacy that will continue after me. So I'm just part of this story, that I'm communicating something, but it's generations before me that have been dancing and that will continue. And I've had wonderful teachers, and they're with me in part of that dance as well. It's not only about like training and Russian and blah blah, but it's about something much deeper. And the body keeps score of your history, and it just remembers everything. And so I respect that, and sometimes the body is tired, and I will try to honor that. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you saying to me, there's a saying, I suppose, in flamenco that I've been dancing, how long have you been dancing for? I've been dancing for generations. And I thought I was so impressed, like, it really made an impression on me. Kind of, yeah, that's such a lovely thing to be part of something it's not just a community, it's not just your friends, it's not just people that are around now, it's going way back, and it will go way forward. It's a huge kind of cultural thing. And the other thing I remember you saying about before when we talked about this was the groundedness, that you're sort of, the dance is almost coming from the earth and you're standing on your feet and it's a solid kind of dance, but that you also learned ballet as a child, which is kind of the complete opposite. So can you tell us a bit about that, the struggles?
Yes, well, as a child, as I said, I was very chubby.
I was going to say, this is impossible to imagine because Rosa's so beautiful now. It's ridiculous.
Thank you, but no, I was very chubby, and I was, my husband likes to say, do you know that group, I think it's called Blind Melon, when there's like a music video where the little girl's like tap dancing, she's like a bumblebee and she's kind of chubby, and that's what I look like. So yes, I mean it was, I love ballet. I absolutely love ballet. I know it's codified and people have all these things against it, but it teaches you so much about the body, and it informs you, and it just feeds you so much information. And so when I could move past I'm not the right body type and I'm never going to be a prima ballerina, I just embraced it, and I loved, and I had a fantastic ballet masters and mistresses, and it's so different from flamenco, which I just say very grounded, very earthy. It develops your muscles in a certain way, and you move, and you are moving from your core. In a way, it's different from ballet, because ballet is about going up and flamenco is about going down. But then it comes back to coming from the same place, that center, that that connection. You must go down to go up, and that's true in flamenco. So when I get frustrated and okay, I'm not going to have a grand, blah blah whatever, that's okay, because this is my body in ballet, and it's such a beautiful art form. I just love the clarity, the lines. And that's found in flamenco as well. It's asinine to think that, flamenco doesn't have that technique, because it does. It just works with it in a slightly different way. And rhythm is very much a part of flamenco, where in ballet, its musicality is very different.
It seems to me, just watching you talk, you're almost dancing while you're speaking. It's lovely to watch. But there's something very sort of gestural about flamenco that's all kind of in the hands, and it's almost like you are always inviting people into a conversation somehow. Maybe ballet's a bit less subtle in that way. It's much more like do a big shape. And then, yes. Now I'm sad.
Exactly, yes.
Well, narrative ballet, I should say.
Yes. No, there's definitely some truth to that. I think Of course, ballet, the look, and it's about the eyes. But within flamenco, it's really those small subtleties that if you blink, you miss it, and that's okay, because you're not meant to see everything, because it's about energy. And of course, the wonderful ballet dancer would say a similar thing, maybe, but it's slightly different. Its history, its reason for existing is slightly different than flamenco. Flamenco is a reaction to a social situation that was existing 150, 200 years ago for the Romani Gypsy community, and that mix of, North Africans, Jews, Spaniards, and Gypsies coming together, that melting pot gave birth to what we now call flamenco. But of course, then there's Spanish classical dance, which is very similar to ballet, and we get the positions from ballet and Spanish classical dance. So there's a, but that interaction has given us, has allowed flamenco to kind of take shape. So slightly different from ballet.
Can you tell us about I'm going to call it the CDARE project. I don't know if that's how you say it. We already got Hollow Dance wrong. Is that right, CDARE?
CDARE, yes, okay. The Centre for Dance Research at Coventry Uni. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And there does seem to be quite a strong technology side to this project. Can you tell us a bit about this?
Yes, so Hollow Dance is a 3-year European-funded Horizon 2020 project that is bringing in digital technologies in dance and motion capture. And so it's building a tool that works with avatars and will hopefully allow students, learners, teachers, as well as choreographers to work with this tool. And the tool, more or less, you have an avatar. You have 4 different genres: ballet, contemporary dance, Greek folk dance, and flamenco. And this repository of movements, and you pick and choose, and you bring it together, and you dance with this avatar. Of course, that's a very simplistic way of looking at it, and we're still developing it, but that's the hope. And so we're thinking that there would be 2 strands, one for teachers and learners and one for choreographers. And so can this tool enhance your practice or your learning? We'll find out.
Yeah. I remember you saying that when you were trying it, the shape of the avatar affects how you move when you're watching it.
Absolutely. I mean, I had never done any motion capture work, so for me it was all really exciting. And the tech team was just lovely people, very welcoming, allowing me to kind of be in awe of everything and giving me that space to explore that. And when I was looking at the playback and the avatar that was on screen, when it was this ghost-like character, kind of like Martha Graham-looking Michelin thing, I was just playing and moving, and it was like every quirky thing that you would maybe do at a wedding, just dancing around was there. And then the second the avatar looked a bit more human-like, transformer-like, then I got very serious, and it was about being accurate and correct, and my technique's not right. So this was actually an observation from my colleague Ruth Gibson, who has done a lot with motion capture. But I realized that, that's right, that is what's happening. So it was just wonderful to see that this avatar was prompting or priming me in a way that I didn't expect.
So what is it you're doing there other than sort of testing their motion capture?
I offered dancing and choreography and kind of exercises within the flamenco category, but also just interviewing various people who are technologists or dancers or flamenco teachers, and trying to understand what would be useful for the tool, for us, because oftentimes we do things, especially in academia, projects exist, but they don't actually affect or enhance or support the community that you think you're working with. So it's really important at CEDAR that we work alongside the community, and that we're making something useful, not just because we can spend all this money and make this really great tool that no one's actually going to use. So that's really important. And a lot of us at CEDAR are still artists and practitioners that are doing academic work as well. So there's not really a divide, but kind of a merging of the two worlds. So CEDAR has many branches of somatic practice. It has citizen science projects, cultural heritage, and digital technologies. And this is one of those European digital technology projects that we have. We're always trying to see what's possible. So there are many aspects. This is just one, and this is our newest project, you could say. Yeah.
What else are you working on at the moment?
So I'm finishing up a residency, a fellowship with Ludic Rooms, the random string, which is how we met, actually, at the symposium. So that project is bringing in vulnerable groups, dance and digital technologies. Because before Random Strings, I was quite intimidated by digital technologies. I had done a lot of screen dance work and editing, but never, what's an Arduino board, And now that it's really exciting, the potential that, I'm learning about all of these other aspects and thinking about ways to integrate that into my practice. So with Random Strings, it's an exciting yet still slightly intimidating way of thinking about dance flamenco communities and digital technology.
I'm dying to see you dance. I feel like I need to organise an event in Sheffield just to get you to do some runs of this. Because I can already imagine. Because there is a video of you, a really beautiful video of you dancing in the street, and is that on Vimeo or something that people can find?
That's right. That's a dance film that I made with two very dear friends of mine. And yeah, that piece, again, it's a reflection or reflecting a lot of the Spanish traditions, but within modern context. So, and then, playing with digital tools and kind of editing. And I just think it's so fun to create stories for dance films. And that film has been rejected from many festivals, but was accepted in 3 or 4. So I'm quite happy about that because, as you know, you get rejected. You put your work out there and that gets rejected and it's like, oh, my heart hurts. But, when it makes it in, it's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really glad it has. I mean, obviously it deserves to be, but there is this thing, isn't there, of realising that you have to be rejected so many hundreds of times more than you think you do.
Exactly. Sometimes my colleagues or even my friends like, oh, Rosie, you have such a successful career, blah, blah, blah. How do you... It's like, you have no idea how much admin work goes into, just kind of organizing everything and the different... You have to really think in so many different ways to, film festivals require this, blah, 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 that. And you are rejected, and I think being an artist is not only about, creating great work or meaningful work to you, but it's part of it is convincing someone else that it deserves a space in whatever gallery or whatever that environment might be. And you have to be an advocate, and it's a fine line between being, I think, believing in your work and being arrogant. And I think that's why a lot of artists get that, we get that bad rap, like we're full of ourselves. Well, no, it's not about that. It's about, you really do have to be your own best kind of friend and cheerleader, but you have to stay humble as well, and so it's a fine line, and some people find that balance and other people don't. But yeah, it's hard.
I think it's because I said, anyone can be a technologist. Like I find it really offensive that there are technology people and everybody else, because it's so accessible and it's really, really easy for people who can do, if you can operate a computer, if you can drive a car, if you can do any of these things that most people can do, then of course you can learn how to use technology in your practice. And then you said, well, anyone's a dancer. And I was like, oh my God, it's like a light coming on in my head. It's like, well, yeah, I guess everybody is.
Yes, I mean, you're moving in a different way. And of course, there's some that are professionals and trained. But, everyone can do that. My friends used to say, I'd never want to go dancing with you. It's like, do you think I'm going to just pirouette on the dance floor all evening? No, I'm just going to move the way your body would move to music. Or, some of us maybe do it a little bit better than others, but you still know your body and you can move, and walking down the street can be a dance.
I think it's a bit like the only thing distinguishing people from artists is it's not that they call themselves artists so much as it's that they spend like 2/3 of their time being rejected and just trying to convince everybody that they've got something to say that's worth hearing. But it's it's a tough life, isn't it? It's miserable sometimes.
It is. No, it is. It really is, and it's not like, let's all pull out our violins, but it is hard. But again, it's about, I think if you're doing it for the right reasons, it pays off, and you don't feel like it's work. I work a lot, but it doesn't feel like, yes, oh my God, work. It's because I love it. It's because there's something, it's an addiction. There's a payoff there, but there's also something really beautiful that I'm constantly learning about myself, and it can be a reflective practice if we allow it to be. And that's, I think, what I enjoy about my dance practice and about making and creating and working with other people. I get to meet interesting people that then can be my friends. It's like, how wonderful is that? I can travel, and of course that's hard and exhausting, but it's also really, really beautiful.
Obviously people get a lot out of watching dance generally, but I'm wondering what it is that sort of keeps you going, thinking, well, you look into their eyes while you're dancing and think, I can really see that they're connecting. Or
it breaks the mold, I think, of what at least for women, what women should be. And it goes back to energy. What I love about flamenco, it's about a community, it's about an interaction that's happening, whether it's the musicians and the dancers or the singers. But there's also something quite vulnerable there, that the art form asks you to be vulnerable. And I mean, there's of course Broadway flamenco that's very perfect and on stage and these military routines, but there's then something about energy that I think is, for me, what keeps me, or when I see good flamenco, it's like, yes, that was it. And I think that's true in dance. Gillian Lynn, once I was at a conference, and she was, the keynote, and she was saying, when I choreograph cats and I speak to the cast, I ask them to change the space in the theater. And they don't all get it. But she was and she went on, and she was saying that, it's about the energy. Change the space and the energy. Have people react to what you're doing on stage. And that, to me, is what, when she said it, and when I've seen it in other teachers or other flamenco artists, it's about that. It's about, being vulnerable, offering yourself, but also just being in that moment, because you have to be with dance. You have to be. If you're thinking about the steps, it's I think you said once that one of the Rambert dancers was saying that he's at his best when he's the most exhausted, because he goes on stage and it's just because it's automatic, and that body, that it knows it. The body is incredibly wise, and our heads get in the way of that. So in flamenco, I think it's the body kind of speaking to us, not the mind. I had a teacher who would say, she would be walking and someone would step on her foot and she'd say, "Excuse me, that's my career." And that she was trying to teach us that these matter, my feet matter. And, that just, yes, that is my career.
You had many injuries over the years.
Yeah, I've had, I think you just constantly have an achy body. Biofreeze is my best friend. Ice, a hot bath or a warm shower. Even now, even though I'm not physically dancing all the time, I think I still try and be active, but a lot of those old injuries do come up, and I have arthritis in my hands and feet, and
oh my gosh, what? Like you must be like 30 something.
I'm 34. Yeah,
and you have arthritis. Terrible.
Yes, but it's just one of those things you learn to work with it and move with it. Here I am telling you, yes, preserve your body, respect your body, and then you're throwing yourself around. But
you have to sometimes go to these extremes in life to learn these things, don't you? And there is a price of living at that.
Absolutely. And I noticed that my body can't do the same things that it used to do, or maybe I can't recover as quickly, or but yeah, it's just, I love it, I wouldn't change it, and I hope to be dancing when I'm 70, 80, and I'll be a great flamenco dancer then, because I'll have so much life experience to share with people. Now I'm still a youngin', and people will, and I think it's important for us as a society to think about the inter and intra-generational way of living and coexisting, because our elders do have something to say, and I see it on the bus, we don't offer them a seat. We don't offer, that's sad to me. That's really sad. We've forgotten, we're so in our phones or in our own worlds that we're not aware of what's happening around us. So I feel that we should consider children and our elders a bit more.
One thing I wanted to ask about was the gestures in flamenco, and also the role of music, and how I remember you saying something about you're communicating with the musician a lot, and part of the gestures. What else is going on with that?
So there's certainly a hierarchy in flamenco. There's the singer, the cante, the guitar, the toque, and then the dancer.
Right.
Traditionally, we see the dancers on stage, and that's the most important thing. But actually, it should be the other way around. The singer and the guitarist are the ones kind of dictating what's happening and when it's happening, and you have to be listening. And there are different styles within flamenco. If you think there's a flamenco tree and there are different branches. And so within each style, there are certain rules, that, let's say, in alegría, which means a happiness, this style would be more upbeat. You may have a very specific structure you follow, and the movement within that, or the verse within that, may be different depending on who's singing. And yes, you're constantly listening and reacting to these subtleties. So you might hear into the rhythm. So there's a 12 count rhythm, and you know that, okay, he's starting to do this, so that means he's going to close this section, so I need to do this kind of movement. Or he's taking it, wants to repeat the verse again, so I'm going to have to do another marking step. And that's really hard, and you have to have a good relationship with the guitarist and with the singer in order to get that right. Some days it's wonderful. It's like having a conversation. There's an ebb and a flow, and you follow it, and sometimes it just abruptly stops, and you think, it's like, what do we say? But on stage, that might look really strange. But if you're experienced, you know how to play that off. And then, and that's where the gestures, I think, come in, where a look, a foot gesture, a hand motion might indicate, okay, I'm done, or I'm in the zone. Yeah.
So do they? So they're just kind of like messing with you. Like they just keep like you have to keep up with what they're doing, and it's never the same twice, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Oh, yes, that's right. It's never the same twice. When I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, I did my master's there. They had a flamenco focus and a professional flamenco group, and they had a singer there. He was wonderful. He just had the most beautiful voice, but he was notorious for changing the verse. So you have, these group of dancers that have rehearsed this thing, and it's supposed to be this long, and 10 people on stage, and here he would come in, and if that night he was in another mood, you just had to go with it. So, but he also was so endearing and just so good at what he did that, people always forgave him for that. Yeah, but it happens, and he can just mess with you. Yeah. It's like, I don't want to, and I know I should, but I won't, because he knows what he needs to do. Yeah. I mean, but yeah. I mean, I think the music is the most important thing, because as a dancer, you're making music with your body. As a musician, yes, you're using the instrument, but, you have to have that rhythm. You have to understand the rhythms and in a way that without that, you can't sing, you can't dance, you can't play. So, yes, the music is the most important thing. And now, when I'm playing flamenco or trying to share it with my daughter or with my students, I say, just listen to flamenco. Your ear is taking all of that, and you have to train the ear first before you get the right footwork and all of that. None of that will matter unless you have trained your ear.
This is the thing with dance, that it's easy to forget you're a musician of the body.
Absolutely. The mechanics of it, okay, a plie, there are all these points that have to align and all of that, but what makes it the plie is that musicality, that stretch, it's the rhythm that's going to make it not just a pedestrian movement.
I thought it was interesting before when we were talking about ballet and flamenco a while ago. You were saying, I can't remember which of us said it, but it was something like that ballet is kind of trying to escape reality somehow. You're trying to create this illusion all the time that's like, this is impossible, so you might as well almost be on strings, like it's so impossible. And again, unlike gymnastics where you are impressed by the physical achievement, you have to almost just be carried along by the illusion and taken into a magical world. Whereas flamenco is like, this is real, this is fucking real, you've got to accept this has happened, this is about all these things that have happened to all these women over the years.
Yes. There's a wonderful film called Gypsy Caravan by the director Jasmine Delal, and she follows 6 artists, and one of them, there's a flamenco family there, and that night the film says, like, she was really tired, they were on tour, and she's saying, well, I just sang about that my feet hurt and that I'm tired, and she created this whole verse around just how she was actually feeling, and he danced that night to this verse, and so there it is about that, it's just about being present. Of course, there's the Carmen-esque beauty and all of that, but flamenco in its essence is about, it gives you permission to just be who you are in that moment.
It's so beautiful, isn't it? And that's why you can do it from a child to an old person.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Your life and
absolutely.
I love the idea that there is an art form out there somewhere that's kind of that takes advantage of the reality of life, that your personality and all the things that have happened to you add to it. Actually,
absolutely, and it's just an integral part of it. It's and again, I don't think that flamenco is better than any other. It's just the entry point into communicating or sharing is very different.